starting RECON a number of years ago, we did so with the realization that most transition programs for veterans were lacking in one key area. Sure, most of them help with the job search and with resources for education or housing, but one thing stood out, and that was the lack of purpose-focused planning for veterans and their families. While many are quick to help in the job search, we're skipping an important part of the process, the part that addresses what job and why. It's possible that purpose-based career planning is such an intangible idea that it's hard to grasp, because even today people are quick to put RECON in the category of job fair or recruiter, even though we technically do neither of those things. Realizing that purpose is not typically a focus of most employment programs, it's important that we define what we mean when we use the term. Simply put, purpose is the reason for which something exists. In our program, the something we're talking about is you, and the question we're trying to help you answer is, why do you exist? The reason we focus on this is multifaceted, but in short, it's because we believe that people who are fulfilled in their lives and in their careers are far more likely to be healthy, happy, safe, and productive members of their communities. The concept of purpose is one that, over the past few decades, has continued to gain momentum in our society, from well-known psychologist Martin Seligman to thought leaders like Aaron Hurst, the author of the book The Purpose Economy. But throughout all of the growing exploration of the concept of purpose or well-being, there has been much discussion, much dissonance, and a lot of speculation on the matter. While the questions asked always seem to be the same, what is purpose, or how do I find my life's purpose, the answers can widely vary. Because purpose is an intangible notion, it's hard to prove one has it or doesn't, and it's equally as hard to figure out if you've found it or not. As existential as it sounds, though, there are reasons why we as humans are constantly on the search for purpose. In 1943, Abraham Maslow published a paper called A Theory of Human Motivation, where he outlined a hierarchy of needs that would become a staple of human psychology studies. The theory posits that there are needs fundamental to human existence. Without them, humans cannot function as they should. From the most basic psychological needs like food, water, and shelter to feelings of love, belonging, the hierarchy covers all human needs, and as we grow and succeed in attaining more, we become focused on higher things like esteem and even self-actualization, which Maslow himself further defined as what a man can be, he must be. In other words, the ultimate goal, the complete fulfillment of the human experience, lies in finding one's purpose in this world. As an economy, the evolution of our world from the agrarian economy to the information economy of the 80s and 90s meant that more and more of our needs were met in day-to-day life. We no longer had to struggle to bring in crops simply to survive. We simply go to the store instead. According to Aaron Hurst, who outlines this economic transformation in The Purpose Economy, the advent of modern technology meant that the workforce began to change again. These days, employees don't typically stay at jobs longer than 4.5 years on average, and instability brought on by the Great Recession and other major events has people searching for higher meaning. Thus, purpose begins to provide stability we need in an ever-changing, fast-paced world. It's a great explanation for the general outlooks on purpose as well. While baby boomers typically took jobs that paid well and offered security and stability with less regard to how that job affected their own well-being, it was Generation X that was responsible for creating the work-life balance concept. Millennials, on the other hand, took it even further. As a collective, they're willing to work hard to achieve the lifestyle they want and are usually highly purpose-driven. In fact, 79% of millennials say it's more important to enjoy their job than to make money, and Hurst notes that millennials prioritize purpose more than ever before, not only from relationships, but from communities and how they consume products. Essentially, millennials have helped create the cultural notion that purpose is bigger than any product or job or thing, and this culture has grown bigger than that generation. Now, boomers who are looking to start their second careers look for jobs with purpose. Another point that's worthy of note, the boomer generation gives more than $60 billion to charity each year. Across generations, there's a magnetism to purpose, but really, if we accept Maslow's theory as true, then we can say that there's an inherent need in all of us to find our purpose, to continually explore our reason for existing and how it affects our lives today. But the truth is, purpose, or meaning, or well-being as we can call it, does affect our lives and in multiple ways. And even though the concept of purpose may feel nebulous, there are a lot of hard numbers that we can associate with it. From a health standpoint, there are numerous studies that show that those who live in purpose or feel fulfilled in life tend to live healthier and longer lives. In fact, a 2010 study showed that a stronger sense of purpose leads to higher levels of cognitive ability and lesser decline of those abilities to diseases like Alzheimer's in the future. Conversely, people who are happy but lack meaning in their lives showed the same gene expression patterns as those who are struggling with prolonged adversity. It's as if their bodies are preparing to fight off bacterial infections, and when continued in a prolonged state, it can increase the risks of major illnesses like cancer and heart disease because the body stays in a constant state of inflammation. Well, how about education? Well, according to a study produced by researchers at the University of Texas, Stanford, and Pennsylvania, students with purpose not only learn better, but they persist longer through harder topics and are more engaged when they have a self-transcendent purpose guiding them. And then there's your career. Statistics show that 44% of veterans will leave their first post-transition job within 1 year due to misplacement, bad fit, or low engagement, all key indicators for a lack of purpose. Meanwhile, a study by Bright Horizons suggested that 89% of employees with high levels of well-being reported high job satisfaction. Similarly, in a recent study of LinkedIn members, 73% of purpose-oriented members are satisfied in their jobs, against 64% of those who are non-purpose-oriented. So there's no question that purpose is important to the human existence, but defining it is still hard to do. So rather than try to define what it is, let's talk for a second about what it isn't. Primarily, according to Seligman, who is one, if not the preeminent authority on this subject, it's important that we don't confuse purpose with happiness. Happiness is variable and fleeting, and our true goal should be in well-being, which is further defined by 5 things: positive emotion, engagement, meaning, positive relationships, and accomplishment. According to Hurst, purpose is also not the following. It's not a cause, like saving the whales or feeding children across the world, although it may materialize that way as a function of your own purpose. It's not a luxury, it's a universal need, as Maslow described. It's not equivalent to worth. You are not worth more because you found your purpose, or worth less because you work a job that is not purpose-fulfilling. It's not a destination that you end up, it's a direction that you constantly follow. And finally, finding purpose is not easy. Still, with all the discussion about what purpose is and is not, and all the authorities who have studied the subject through intense scrutiny, it may have been William Shakespeare who defined it best. The meaning of life is to find your gift, he said. The purpose of life is to give it away. We're going to talk a little bit more about defining your own purpose in a future module, but before then, we need to define a few other things, like transition and identity. Those are your next modules.